Anything we need to take up before we bring jurors up?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
All right, we'll bring jurors, please. Gentlemen, we hope you had a good lunch recess. I believe we're going to pick up right where we left off with further questions from Ms. Hocutt.
Thank you,
Mr.
Your
Lively?
Honor.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back, Ms. Hocutt. Just a couple more questions for you. I think when we left off, you had just left Ms. Allen or Ms. Holden at the time at Wake Med Trauma, is that correct?
Yes.
And you would have conveyed the information about the care you'd provided for at that point?
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about just your observations about her breath and her other vital signs when you left her at Wake Med?
When she was left at Wake Med, her level of consciousness never changed throughout our transport. She was still able to mumble. She would become more lethargic and had to be aroused at times, but she was able to still give that same level of response, whether it was moaning or trying to whisper. Later into the transport, she actually had started complaining about having pain in her abdomen. So of course that was relayed to the trauma team. But as far as her breathing never changed while we were en route to the hospital.
All right. And again, you relayed all of that to the trauma team, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that an IV was attempted. What was it? You weren't able to...
It was unsuccessful, whether that was just her vasculature or the movement in the ambulance, because that would have been on the way to the hospital, or I was just having a bad day and couldn't get it. I don't know.
But she was in generally the same condition when you left her on at Wake Med?
Yes.
As you found her?
Yes.
Now on page 2 of your notes,
Yes.
It says incident details near the bottom. Do you see that in the report you made?
Incident details. You're in the line items that are at the very bottom of the page?
That's correct, under
Okay.
incident details.
Mm-hmm.
Under level of service, it says advanced life support. What does that indicate?
That means that the level of service that was provided by that ambulance has the EMT certification is broke down into 3 levels. You have a basic EMT, you have an intermediate level EMT certification, and a paramedic certification. The intermediate and the paramedic certifications can provide IVs and different interventions for a patient that maybe an EMT alone cannot. So the EMT by itself will be a basic life support, whereas your advanced levels, your intermediate and your paramedic are going to provide more service and is categorized as advanced life support.
And is a decision made based on the classification of the call as to sort of who to dispatch, or was it just because of who was available?
The 911 system in Wake County, every ambulance that responds to a 911 call is provided by ALS unit.
Okay, and by that you mean advanced?
I mean, there's a paramedic on every ambulance that responds to a call in Wake County.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't have anything further.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. So, Ms. Hokut,
Yes.
when you found LaTonya Holden, she was conscious, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you know that because she was moving around?
Her eyes were open. She was able to respond in some way. As I said, she was able to moan and sometimes whisper to us, and she was able to move all of her extremities.
Okay.
Yes.
So she was breathing, obviously.
Yes, ma'am.
And talking to some extent, or mumbling.
Right.
Vocalizing
Yes.
something. Okay. And you said that that level of alertness or consciousness that stayed pretty steady during the time that you were with her,
Yes.
right? Okay. I'd like to show you. I'd like to talk to you, if you can remember, about where the ambulance was parked when you arrived at the Taylor's home. I have a photo here. If you wouldn't mind looking at it.
I can tell you where we parked.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Tell me about that.
In reference to the front of the home, if you're facing the front of the home, our ambulance actually was parked to the right side of the home, because we parked, and the driver, my partner that was with me, positioned the ambulance that we would be able to get out quickly, and then we went in towards the back of the property.
Okay, I think it would be helpful if you, and maybe this isn't the best photo for you to show me on, but do you mind if I
That's fine.
show it to you? May I approach you on it?
Yes, please.
Does that picture reflect the area where y'all parked the ambulance?
I can't, this was the front porch here. I can't tell in the
Yes,
dark.
yes,
Okay,
that's
so
the
we would have been parked over closer to this side.
Okay,
of
and
the
there's some
house.
carports here on the right
Right.
side. Are you
Yeah,
to the
we're in the
right?
gravel of the,
Okay.
like, kind of coming in this way so that we can come back out.
Okay, why don't we go, look over here and show
Okay.
the jury.
Okay. So we were parked more down in this area and moved the ambulance to where we would be pointing so we could go back out.
Okay, and would you say the ambulance was this far from the house, or was it closer?
We were probably about 40 to 50 feet walking from the house.
I assume you'd want to be fairly close in order to transport the person
Right.
easily, right? Okay, so around here, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of off of the picture.
Sort of in the
Yes.
lower right-hand corner of State
Right.
Exhibit 1.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And there were two ambulances.
Yes, ma'am.
Were they parked near each other?
I can't speak to where the other ambulance was parked.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you, ma'am.
Redirect.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may
Thank
step
you.
down. Further evidence for the state?
State will call Stacy Lamb, Wake County EMS.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am. If you would, please just introduce yourself to the jury and tell them how you're employed.
I'm Stacy Lamb. I'm employed by Easter Wake EMS.
And how long have you been with Wake EMS?
Full-time, 10 years.
And then you worked part-time some period of time before that?
I volunteered, and then I worked part-time, and then I worked my way into a full-time position.
Okay, great. Were you serving in a full-time position on April 9th of 2014?
Yes, sir.
All right. And did you eventually come to be present at 1125 Lake Glad Road?
Yes, sir, I did.
And how did you come onto the scene?
We were dispatched, we were actually about 3 miles from the Lake Glad residence. So we were dispatched first. And it took us about 3 minutes to get there. We were about 3 miles away. And we staged. We were at Martin Pond and Eagle Rock. And Eagle Rock takes you straight to the Lake Glad address. So we staged, like we said earlier. We don't go until PD gets there if it's a shooting or a domestic call. So we staged and waited for Wake SO to tell us that it was secure to come in.
Now you said you stage if it's a shooting or a domestic call. Is that actually part of sort of the?
It's our
policy?
protocol. If it's relayed to us from dispatch that says it's unsecure, there's a domestic shooting, stabbing, fight, things like that.
Okay.
We don't go in until Wake SO says you can come.
All right, and so in this case, you staged, and then eventually you were you were allowed to pull up and attempt
Yes,
to
sir.
render aid.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and can you tell us where you went and who you attempted to render aid to?
We pulled up and we got out of our ambulance, got all of our equipment. We went in through the back as we were directed by Wake SO to go in through the back. I walked in and they said we have a patient who sounded worse off on the right side as you go in through the back. So my partner and myself, we went there because we were first in.
Okay,
So we went to the worst patient.
I see. Sort of triage that.
Yes.
And the first one's in, go to the person who may
Yes, sir.
be in the worst shape.
Yes, sir.
And so, can you tell us what you found when you? So, if you're coming in from the back of the house, you said you went to the right, and was that into a bedroom?
We went into a bedroom.
Okay, and what did you find when you got into the bedroom?
We found the deceased subject, and we assessed her. We pulled up her shirt because we saw blood on her shirt, and we checked for a carotid and a femoral, which is carotid here, femorals, the lower leg, to see if we had a pulse. Didn't have anything. I asked for a stethoscope so we could listen for heart tones, and I didn't hear any heart tones.
Okay,
And we declared her deceased at that point.
all right. And about what time did you declare her deceased?
So we got at the patient at 22:04. It's a quick assessment, so 22:05.
Okay.
That we can do all that quickly.
Right. All right, and of course, once you've determined she's deceased, you're not able to render any care to her. So what do you do next?
We walk out of the room because we don't stay. We try to preserve evidence as we've been taught in school. So I heard there was another patient. So I went to Ms. LaTonya, helped the other crew render aid to her. They were packaging her on a backboard, and I helped them with her.
Okay, so you actually helped move Miss Allen out of the house, and
Yes, sir.
and on Ms. Hocut's trip notes or patient care record, it has you listed along with Mr. Honeycutt and her.
Yes.
So did you actually then leave your ambulance and go with them?
I
to
actually
travel
did.
away then?
I drove them in.
Okay.
So I actually drove Karen and her partner to the hospital. So I didn't come in much contact with the patient other than helping load her in the ambulance, and then we got out of there.
Sure. Okay. And then you would have. Is there like a trauma bay, like a delivery entrance for?
Yes, sir. Every ambulance patient goes in the same doors in the back, double doors. We enter a code, go in, and then we go down the hall to a trauma bay where the trauma team's waiting for us. We call ahead of time, let them know we're coming.
Okay. All right. And did you remain in the ambulance while I guess Ms. Hocutt and Mr. Honeycutt might have?
I
shared
helped
the
them
medical
unload
information?
the patient and went into the trauma room and then stayed in there just a second, got our bed out of the way so they could work, and came out in the hallway.
I see.
And then I wasn't at the hospital long. My partner came and picked me up at Wake Med, and we got back in service and went to Eastern Wake County.
Okay. Now I want to talk to you about, I guess, later on that evening or the early morning hours of the next day. Were you still working sort of overnight?
Yes, sir. We did a 24-hour shift.
All right. And did you receive a call to go out to another address, Holden Acres.
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, and can you tell me how you received that call?
I received a phone call via my supervisor, and it was about between 3 and 4 in the morning, asking me to check out a service and stage at Holden Acres with Wake SO, and they would give me further.
Okay, so you actually received the call from the supervisor. Was that unusual in any way?
Yes, it was just.
It wasn't a 911 dispatch that went out.
No, I think that it was relayed to our supervisor saying, hey, we need an ambulance to go. It's called a TAC mission. Anytime there's a warrant served that's high acuity, I guess you'd say, or a risk where officers could be shot at or a subject could be shot, they send an ambulance.
I see. And so did you go out to Holden Acres and did you stage there the same way you staged at Lake Glide?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Which there was a deputy at the end of the path where we staged.
All right. And can you tell me if you ever did have to respond or provide any service?
We stayed out there a while, and we heard gunshots, multiple gunshots, and then on the radio they called for an ambulance. So yes, we did.
Okay. And when they called for an ambulance, did you tell us sort of the path you took? I mean, this wasn't a public street anymore, was
No,
it?
sir. We were at a dirt path, which that's where Holden Acres is, the dirt path on the left. And we were staging there. When they called, the deputy said, follow us, follow me. So we went kind of through a field, like a tobacco field, soybean field type thing. We drove through there. We didn't know what was going on, if the officer was down or who was down. We just knew someone had been shot or shot at.
Okay.
And so we parked where they told us to and got out.
And when you got out, what were you presented with in terms of someone to be examined or cared for?
They had us go kind of toward the woods in the dark, and it was Mr. Holden handcuffed on the ground, and they wanted us to check him out.
Okay. And did y'all attempt to examine him?
Yes, he was walked to our ambulance where we had better lighting because we were in the woods in the dark, couldn't see anything. We tried to examine him. He wouldn't speak to us if he was hurt or anything. We didn't see any obvious injuries.
And so you attempted to just visually search for any obvious injuries, and you had heard gunshots and you didn't see any gunshot wounds
No,
or
sir.
anything of that nature?
No, sir.
Okay. And there were no. Did you attempt to ask him questions?
No, sir.
Okay. It was just a visual examination and no
We
conversation.
asked if he was injured and didn't get a response, just kind of wouldn't speak to us.
All right. And then at that point, I mean, did you need to or decide to keep him to receive medical treatment or just hand him back over to the Wake County Sheriff's Office?
I'm handing him back over to Wake County.
And he didn't request any treatment?
No, sir.
Anything else out of the ordinary that you observed with him, if at all?
No, sir.
In your in your training and in your work experience, have you had a fair occasion to come into contact with people that were impaired by alcohol or other drugs,
Yes, sir.
or potentially suffering from some sort of psychotic event, things of that nature?
Yes, sir.
Were any of those even potential issues in your brief examination of the defendant that you recall?
We had a very brief examination, but I did not smell any alcohol or suspect any drugs. But that's all I can say.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, ma'am. I don't go further.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, you had a very brief encounter with Mr. Holden, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How long would you say it lasted?
I mean, it was no more than 5 minutes.
And you'd never met him before, is that correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Further evidence?
Your Honor, this time we'd call David Wall to the stand.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Mr. Waller?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Wall, good afternoon to you, sir.
Afternoon.
Will you please state your name for the record, sir?
David Wall,
And how are you employed, sir?
Wendell Fire Department, a lieutenant on A shift. Been there 10 years.
Okay. So you're a lieutenant with the Wendell Fire Department?
Yes, sir.
And tell us a little bit about what your duties and responsibilities are as a lieutenant with the Wendell Fire Department.
Lieutenant drives the truck, the captain rides the seat, and the firefighter rides in the back. And that's pretty much everything. We're EMTs too, so fire/EMTs.
And when you say you drive the truck, then when you arrive to the scene, are you in charge of the firefighters, or what's the hierarchy there that you
No, the captain's in charge of the truck, and I am in charge of the pumping the truck and either getting us there driving. So,
And how about on a scene where it's not a fire scene, but a call for service that may involve injuries and whatnot? What is your role as a firefighter in that type of scene?
Besides fire calls, we run a lot of EMS calls. So I would say we run 85% EMS. And like the call we ran, I was acting officer on the call. I didn't drive. I was riding the seat, and my firefighter bumps up to drive, and then the other firefighters in the back.
And when you're talking about this incident, we'll go straight to April 9th of 2014. That's the incident you're describing here, sir.
Yes.
So you were essentially the lead firefighter on this case that night.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Tell us a little bit about how y'all got involved with this case, sir.
With any call, EMS gets dispatched, and fire gets dispatched with it. And so just like them, we come out as a shooting call, so we have to stage. We know automatically we got to stage for the call. And so we staged at Lake Glad and I think Lake Glad and Jake May Drive is where we came in off of.
What do you mean by the term staged?
Staging is where we stand by because it might be a domestic call, just like EMS was saying, domestic shooting or fighting. We have to wait for law enforcement to clear the scene before we enter, so it's safe.
And do you have noted, sir, what time you were dispatched to this call at Lake Glad?
It was 21:48.
So is that 9:40?
9:48. Same
9:48.
time, probably EMS was dispatched.
Okay. And then approximately what time was it when you were actually on scene there?
When we hit our arrival button, when we go to staging, so we got to our staging site at 5 minutes, and then we were, I would say, not even a half mile down the road, staging in a safe area for them to clear the scene.
So is your fire station, is it kind of there in downtown Wendell essentially?
Yeah, it's downtown Wendell, 2960 Wendell Boulevard, right across from IGA.
How far is the Lake Glad 1125 Lake Glad from, let's say, downtown Wendell where you are?
Maybe a few miles. I don't know right offhand how many miles. I would say, I don't know, 6 minutes. We can get there 5, 6 minutes, 7 maybe. But it's kind of out of the district, a little close to the Johnson County line, but we can get there pretty reasonably quick.
But it's outside the city limits, out in the country a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us, Lieutenant Wall, what you did once you arrived there on scene.
We staged and waited for them to clear the scene. They cleared the scene, and we proceeded in with EMS and pulled in with them, make sure we got our truck out of the way because we knew it was probably going to be a load and go situation fast.
What's load and go mean?
Low to go, just like she was stating, the 10-minute mark. They want to get in there and get the patient out as quick as possible to get them to the hospital. So we got out of the truck. The law enforcement was directed us to the back of the house. We're walking with the EMS, and we're going through the back door. And there's three of us, and they go to the first room where Stacy said they went to the worst patient, which is your mother. And my one partner went to that room, and then they called and said there was another patient in the far back room, and that's where me and my partner went.
Okay. So you didn't go to the deceased patient, Ms.
No, sir.
Taylor. You went to LaTonya.
Yes.
Okay. Describe kind of what the situation was when you arrived in.
We went to the back room because the officer was saying they had somebody in the back, and so we went to me and firefighter Hunter went to the back room. She was laying on the floor, kind of moving around the floor like they were stating, and kind of gurgling, and we could obviously see she'd been shot in the chest and in the face. And then EMS came in the room. I mean, everybody was kind of in the room at the same time. We came in with us, and so we automatically sent my firefighter Hunter to get the backboard off the EMS truck, and I assisted EMS in putting the dress and holding it on the chest wound on the patient.
And after that, was LaTonya removed there from the room?
Yes, we put her on the backboard, and we brought her out of the house.
Lieutenant Wall, when you respond to a scene like this, do you try to be aware of items of evidence that may be there on a scene?
Really, we're there for the patient. We're not investigating anything. We don't try to look for anything. We're just there for the patient. We just try to provide as much patient care as we possibly can, and leave, and best our ability.
Did you happen to notice any shell casings or anything like that while you were in the room with LaTonya?
No.
And after your interaction with LaTonya, Lieutenant Wall, did you have any other assistance to offer in this case?
No, after we loaded her, took her outside, and we pretty much stayed out of the way. And for law enforcement, we didn't want to go back in the house, track anything, and we stayed out of the way.
So you try to be fairly conscious of that,
Yes.
of not
Yes, because
tampering with the scene.
we've been on several calls, and we know that we need to be careful about where we step. And so we try to, if we don't have to go back in the house, we don't go back in the house.
And what was LaTonya's condition when she left your presence, sir?
Pretty much had her on the backboard. She looked like she was in the same kind of gurgly, moving around, and that's pretty much last. I helped EMS in my report, load her in the back of the ambulance, and I assisted in starting the IV line in the back of the truck so they can get started trying to get an IV started.
Lieutenant Wall, did LaTonya appear to be in pain to you at that point, or how was her condition?
I mean, yeah, she was in pain, obviously, and kind of still lethargic, kind of moving around, and mostly just moaning and stuff like that.
And while she was in your presence, sir, did she tell you who had done this to her?
No.
All right. Thank you, Lieutenant Wall. I don't have any further questions at this time, Your Honor.
No questions. All right, thank you, sir. You may step down.
At this time, the state would call Mr. Raymond Shay to the stand.
Sir, if you would, place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shay, good afternoon to you, sir.
Morning, sir.
Will you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Raymond E. Shay Jr. with Woodnell Fire Department. Been with them since '08.
Since 2008?
Yes, sir.
And are you one of the firefighters that Lieutenant Wall was just speaking
Yes, sir.
of? Okay. And Mr., do you have a specific rank with
I'm
Wendell
a firefighter.
Firefighter? Okay. Well, Mr. Shay, do you recall the night of April 9th of 2014?
I do.
And were you on that call with Lieutenant Wall as he just described?
I was.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your duties were on that call on the night of April 9th of 2014?
Oh, we got dispatched to the call. I was riding back seat. Whether we're on a brush truck or on an engine, I ride in the back. And typically, I'm the guy that's going to grab the EMS bag and provide patient care.
What's a brush truck?
The brush truck. It's a Ford 550 with it's a small fire truck that we use to respond to EMS calls and we're small brush fires. It's more mobile versus a really big fire engine trying to get to places. It's a faster truck.
Gotcha. And what truck were y'all on this night?
It's our brush truck 114.
Okay.
But I sit in the back. I sit back behind the captain because it's closer to the EMS bag. I can grab it quick and I get in the house.
Okay.
But on this night we were staging. Once the WSO said the scene was safe, we got on scene. Both ambulances pretty much approached at the same time with us. When we got on scene, entered the house, Lieutenant Wall and Mr. Hunter, they went to the left, and then myself and Miss Lamb, we went to the right, and that's where we. I didn't see what they got to do, but that's where I stayed in that room with them.
And were some of the sheriff's deputies telling you which way to go, or how'd you end up in the room?
When I was walking first right behind Stacy, because we knew that their crew, we had 3 of us, and then we had 2 ambulances, so we just split ourselves up to maximize the help that we can give the patients. So I got with their crew, and there was an officer saying, "I've got one there," and that's where. So we were the first EMS team in, so that's where we went first.
And who did you see once you arrived there in the residence, sir?
I saw the mother on the floor.
Okay. And what was her condition when you first arrived there?
When we walked in the room, she was face down.
And did you and the EMS team attempt life-saving measures at that time?
I assisted Stacy in rolling the patient over so she can assess the patient.
Okay. And was she alive at the time she was rolled over?
Miss Lamb declared her that she was not alive.
Did you see the injuries about Miss Taylor at that time, sir?
Yes, sir.
What injuries did you see?
I saw a gunshot wound in her chest.
Did you see the other gunshot wound or just the one in her chest?
I noticed the one in her chest. I didn't notice the one in her hand.
What did you do then, sir?
While Stacy was declaring the patient, I noticed there was a shell behind her. So I informed her. I said, "There's a brass casing behind her." And once she declared the patient, I exited the house, and I repositioned one of the EMS trucks so they can get out.
Let me ask you about that brass shell casing. That was something you noticed there at the scene itself.
Yes.
And did you take steps to make sure that shell casing wasn't disturbed in any way?
The only steps I took is I made sure that my fellow team members knew about it, so they wouldn't kick it, move around, because it was a small room. There was a lot of us, so I let Stacy know because she was the closest one to it, and we didn't move it, didn't touch it.
So the shell casing remained where you found it when you entered the room and noticed it.
Yeah.
And is that pretty much the extent of your involvement there at the house that first time you went?
That was once I exited the house. That was it. I had other things that I did outside.
Okay.
I was there throughout the evening. But as for being inside the house, once we declared her, I exited the house, turned the ambulance around, and that's all I did for inside for them.
At some point, did you have some other responsibilities around the exterior of the house?
I did. The Sheriff's Department requested some additional lighting, and we have a couple vehicles at the fire department that we can do that with. My first vehicle I brought out was our heavy rescue, and it is a very large truck, very heavy truck. And when I got it on scene, they said they wanted to put it out behind the house.
And let me interrupt you there, Mr. Shay. Do you know why they wanted you to put the light
I had no
out?
idea. Okay. They wanted to put it behind the house, and I noticed that the ground was pretty soft just being back there, and I know how heavy this heavy rescue truck is. And I said, I've got better lighting at the firehouse. I said, I'm not putting my heavy rescue in a field because I'm just going to have to get a tow truck. So I went back to the firehouse. I have a portable light tower. I hooked it up to a pickup truck, and then I took that to a field. And then when I got on scene with the light tower, as we were setting it up, when I turned on the lights, I realized why they needed more lighting.
What did you see at that point, Mr. Shay?
I saw an elderly black male in the field.
And what was his condition when you saw him?
He was on his back with blood over his chest.
Was he deceased as well?
He was dead.
And Mr. Shea, it sounds like you were able to go back and forth between the residence and Wendell Fire Department fairly quickly. About how far of a drive was it for you?
I under 5 minutes, and that's normal speed. It was late at night. No one's on the road, so we could get under normal speeds. You can get there pretty quick.
And do you recall approximately how long after you were finished with your inside duties was it before Wake SO called for you to bring the light to the back exterior of the house? Almost
Immediately, once the patients were gone, they wanted more light. Because we had numerous officers were getting on scene and they were asking for lighting. So almost immediately we left and got my heavy rescue, and then I was on scene with my heavy rescue for probably about 15 to 20 minutes before I got an answer from the police department where they wanted to place the light tower. And then once I figured out where they wanted to put it, I was like, this isn't going to work. You're just going to damage my truck.
And we watched a video earlier this morning where you almost heard a generator type sound in the background. Was that the light tower making?
It is. It's a Lincoln portable welder that we've hooked up a couple floodlights to.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Yes, sir. Would it be possible for you to put out exhibit number 2? Yes, let me ask you this. When you arrived there, how many vehicles were in the front yard?
How many vehicles were in the front yard? On the initial response, there was 2 police cars were already there, and then once the scene was safe, 2 ambulances and my brush truck got there.
Okay, so make sure I understand. So there was five total vehicles. Right, if I may approach.
Yes.
Sir, could you point to me where the different vehicles were?
Can you show the picture of the driveway where it was wide, where it was back farther?
Is that? Let me see if I can look through the pictures a second.
This is too close. One of the
Okay, let me find a better photograph. If I may, Madam Clerk. Let me approach and show this one and see if this one would be better.
Yes.
Would this be a better one for describing it for you? Would you do it better with this one?
Yeah.
Could you show number 1, please?
Is that right?
That one.
Police cars were the police cars were on, one of the police cars was on the left, and then with the ambulances came on to the right side, and now it's behind the ambulances.
Okay.
And because everything was here, we knew we wanted to get the ambulances out. We knew it was going to be a load and go. So that's why I went outside. I made sure that there was, and we knew that it was a shooting. So we know, when you have a call like this, everybody's coming. So when we have patients on scene, we want to make sure we have a means to get them out quickly. That's why I went outside and repositioned the ambulance so they can get out. I wasn't worried about the second one. I just want to worry about the patient's truck.
Okay, so there were vehicles. Was this car here at that time?
I don't remember this. I don't
You
remember this
that
vehicle.
one? Okay, but you remember?
I was more worried about cop cars and other emergency response vehicles.
Okay, all right. All right, well, thank you.
Sure.
No more questions.
Redirect.
No, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Lieutenant Sylvester Taylor. Good afternoon, sir. If you would, please just introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Sylvester Taylor II, the son of Sylvester and Angela Taylor.
Yes, sir. And how are you currently employed, sir?
Captain, United States Army.
I'm sorry, I called you lieutenant. That was 2014, but you are now a captain.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And where are you currently stationed? Are you in active duty?
I'm actually active guard reserve.
Okay.
I'm currently stationed in Birmingham, Alabama.
All right. Captain Taylor, you said that you were the son of Sylvester and Anglia Taylor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you also the brother of LaTonya Allen, who's here in court today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Captain Taylor, you also know the defendant, Mr. Holden. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how long have you known him?
I've known him for approximately 25 years.
Okay.
20 to 25 years.
All right. So from about the time he was 5 to 7 years old, something along those lines?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And how did you come to know him?
A best friend used to live across the street from him in our neighborhood.
Did you grow up in Eastern Wake County?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. And can you kind of describe the community you grew up in?
It's a very tight-knit community, small community in Eastern Wake County, Wendell. Specifically, we grew up in Raleigh Hill community. There was several little communities there, Jones Chapel and many others, Jonesville. But we grew up in Raleigh Hill. So it was a very, a lot of tight families, and we all bonded, but very small community.
And you, I guess, spent time with all the other kids in the community, and the defendant was about 5 years younger than you. Is that correct?
I think it's approximately 3 years younger.
3 years. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. But at any rate, when did he and your sister get married?
Not sure the actual the time frame, to be honest with you. I'm not sure the year, to be honest with you. I spent a lot of time away. I spent most of my time away from home because I was active duty.
Well,
the specific dates.
Tell me about your career and your active duty and where you've been stationed.
I've actually been at the time 17 years 17 years in the service. I was stationed 2 years overseas. I was stationed in Louisiana, Columbia, South Carolina, Virginia, and also Michigan, later North Carolina.
All right, and so you've never been stationed or living close to home basically since the year 2000, is that right?
That's correct, since 1997.
All right.
For the most part.
Well, Captain, did you stay in touch with LaTonya on a regular basis, even while you're away?
I did. We talked, but we'd talk as just checking in and seeing how things were going with her and her family.
Right. But you weren't necessarily present to observe everything that was going on in the family on a day-to-day basis for yourself, is that right?
That's correct. Not physically present.
Okay. Well, around the end of 2013, did you become aware that LaTonya was taking the kids and leaving the defendant?
Yes, sir. I was notified.
How did you become aware of that?
I believe one of my parents told me about it. I think it was my mom that told me about it.
Okay. And did LaTonya ever confide in you about any incidents that had happened kind of leading up to her leaving the defendant?
Not specific incidents. Just I do kind of recall her just expressing that she was just time to go.
Time to go. Okay. Did she describe even in general terms any sort of verbal or emotional abuse, anything like that?
No, sir, not that I can recall.
Not that you can recall. Okay. Well, I want to talk to you about the day of January 2nd of 2014. Where were you that day?
It was the first day back from the holiday, New Year's holiday. I think it was a Thursday. Just kind of meeting and greeting my co-workers in the office, which was actually in Michigan. I was stationed in Michigan at that time.
Yes, sir.
Great.
And so you were going into the office that morning and would have gotten there about what time?
I think I normally arrive between 08 and 8:30.
Did you place a call to your folks that morning after you got to the office?
I did. I do recall just getting settled in, logging in, and just meeting and greeting individuals that they was coming back. And I did call to check in with my parents because to see how they were doing.
Okay, and did you actually speak to them? I guess around 8:47 that morning.
Yes, sir. I called my father. I called my mother, no answer. And then I called my father, spoke to him, and he passed the phone on to my mom.
Okay, great. Now, shortly after that phone call with your folks, did you receive a text message from the defendant?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall about what time that occurred?
It was approximately 9:30, 9:28, 9:30, I think, from the timestamp.
Your Honor, I have what I've marked as State's Exhibit 45 and State's Exhibit 46. I'd ask to approach.
Yes, sir.
Captain Taylor, I'm going to place in front of you first State's Exhibit 45. Do you recognize what's on that sheet of paper?
Yes, sir.
And what is it?
It's a text exchanges between myself and Nate.
Okay, and so did you take screenshots of the text messages from that morning and save them in that form for us?
Yes, sir.
And you've had a chance to review those. Do those appear to be the same text messages or the same text exchange that y'all engaged in that morning?
They are.
Okay. Your Honor, I asked to move State's Exhibit number 45 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, they are allowed.
And I'm also placing in front of you State's Exhibit number 46. Do you recognize what these two stapled pages represent?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
This is a call log from my personal cell phone.
Okay. And you recognize your account number and the bill period, and your account was with Sprint.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And this represents the calls from a period between the end of January 1st and about the middle of January 4th. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And does that appear to accurately reflect your call activity over that period of time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, State offer State's 46 into evidence at this time.
Any objection? It's allowed.
Captain Taylor, did you and the defendant text on a regular basis?
Not often.
Okay.
Not often.
Well, if you would, please tell me about the time of the first text and the substance of the first text you received from the defendant on January 2nd of 2014.
The first text I received was on Thursday at 9:28, and it stated things are getting worse. Won't let me talk to the kids.
Okay. And is that from you or from the defendant?
The defendant.
And again, that's about at 8:28 or 8:30?
Excuse me, 9:28, sir.
9:28. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, I'd like to ask permission to publish State's Exhibit 45 on the video screen.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
All right, so I'm going to start with the first screen. And Your Honor, may Captain Taylor stand up so he can point out the text?
Yes, sir.
Captain Taylor, if you would just stand up and if you could point out the first text message you received on January 2nd from the defendant.
First text message here, sir.
Okay. And again, what does that say?
Things are getting worse. Won't let me talk to the kids.
Okay. And did you actually see that text message immediately and respond to it?
Yes, sir, I did. And
can you tell me about your response or read that to the jury?
My response was, just let things play out. Keep your cool and know that things will work out. I may start off rough, but it will smooth out. And I sent him a second text that said, just stay encouraged.
Okay. And so when you received that text message from him, you were aware at that time that your sister had left and taken the kids?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you kind of understood the context when this text message came?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then what was his response to you?
His response follows, she downtown taking papers out. Kids not in school today.
All right. Now, after you received that message, did you have an opportunity to talk to the defendant over the phone?
Yes, sir. When I saw that message, I immediately picked up the phone and called.
Okay. Can you tell me about the conversation you had? Did he answer, first of all?
He did not answer the first time, but he did call back approximately 3 to 4 minutes later.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did he have a phone number with a 539-7062? Was that his number at the time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you called him, and then he would have called you back, and did y'all have a conversation then?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me, first of all, about what was said and what his demeanor was?
I don't remember all the details of the call. I do remember when he when I picked up the call, he was very frustrated. He was mad. He was upset, and he just started apologizing. He was like, "I'm sorry, T. I'm really sorry." And then I remember verbatim that he said, "If I can't have the kids, nobody will." I just tried to calm him down and just told him don't make any emotional decisions. You know, just calm down, let things cool off, but don't do anything. Just don't do anything you regret. Just trying to calm him down.
All right, and after you tried to calm him down, what did you do?
Actually, the call was very short. I mean, it was maybe 2 to 3 minutes, but I think we kind of got off the phone pretty abruptly.
He got off the phone abruptly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then what was the next text message you received?
Well, as soon as I got the phone with them, I did make a phone call.
Okay, can you tell me about the phone call you made right after you got off the phone with him?
I just called my father just because I was concerned for Tanya's safety at the time. And I told him that Nate was really upset and mad, and that, he stated that if he can't have the kids, then nobody will. And I was concerned for his safety at that time and also the safety of the kids.
Okay, and so you called your father right after getting off the phone with the defendant, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you just stated what your concern was, is that right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And did you feel it was urgent to contact the relevant parties?
My father?
Yes.
Absolutely. I was concerned because I didn't know her state, where she was at, or what was going on.
Okay. Well, after you spoke to your father, what's the next text message you received?
About 3 minutes, maybe 3 to 5 minutes later, I received a text message that says, "I'm about to react. I am sorry."
Okay. And did you immediately respond to that?
Yes, sir. I responded back and said, "Do not be wise. Your reaction is only going to make things worse."
Okay. And what was his response to that?
Fuck it.
Well, after that exchange, did you make some more phone calls?
I did, just because seeing that he stated that he was about to react, and then seeing the last text that came in, I was just trying to reach out to Tanya. So I called, I believe I called my mom and dad, was trying to see, did they get in touch with her? Did they find her or track her down? And then I tried to call my sister about 4 times.
Okay. And is your sister's phone number 919-436-0341?
Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, at this time, we're publishing State's Exhibit 46.
Yes, sir.
So, looking at that, and may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, Captain Taylor, I believe you already testified that you spoke to your parents that morning when you got to work about 8:45, or looks like maybe 8:47. Can you point out where that call occurred?
It was right here, 8:45. I called my mother, but no answer. And 8:47, I called my father.
Okay, so that's right there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So 616-7620 was your father's phone number at the time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then at 10:21 and 10:25, whose number is this? 539-7062.
That is Nick's number.
And is that the? So you said that you called him and he didn't answer, but then he responded back, and y'all had a call that lasted about 3 minutes. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you bring that up just a little bit? I believe this has times on it. So at 10:25, you had this conversation with the defendant that lasted 3 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then who'd you call at 10:28?
At 10:28, I need to call my father.
Okay, so that's immediately after getting off the phone with the defendant.
Yes, sir.
And you've already testified as to what your concern was and your reason for calling your father?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you've already read the other text messages that happened shortly after that. At 10:39, is this 436-0341 number LaTonya's number?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. And can you count for me the number of times you called it between 10:39 and 10:40?
Between 10:39 and 10:40 was 4 times, sir.
Okay, you called her 4 times, and each time here it says 1 minute, so you never got her. Is that right?
Never made contact.
Okay. And then after 4 attempts to her number after your exchange with the defendant, again at 10:40, who did you call?
I called my father.
Okay. And were you able to get in touch with him?
I think I spoke briefly to him, just saying he needs to track down Tanya.
And then the next call you made, who was that to?
My mother.
Okay, and that was at 10:42 after your 2-minute call at 10:40 with your father. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you relayed the same information to your mother?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then starting at 10:44 through 10:50, or I'm sorry, 11 a.m., how many times did you call your sister?
It was approximately 6 times.
Okay. Were you able to get on the phone with her during any of those
No,
calls?
sir.
Okay. And then at 11:01, it looks like you received an incoming call from your sister. Is that right?
I finally received a call from him.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You can have a seat. Were you able to relay to your sister the nature of your conversation with the defendant at that point?
I talked, I believe so, just told her that, that I was concerned that, that Nate, what he said verbatim, that if, he can't have the kids, nobody will, and I was concerned for her safety, wanted to make sure she was safe.
Okay. Let's see. Now, if we can go back to the text messages, after the defendant responded to you with the expletive, can you tell us what you texted him back to the jurors? It might be hard for them to see that.
I immediately responded back, I'm praying for you, and I know God will strengthen your heart during this time. God loves you, and he cares about you. I followed up and just said, Nate, where are you at? Again, do not do anything. We can help.
And what did he respond to that?
Nothing you can do now. It's over.
Do you remember exactly time-wise when those text messages were sent or received?
I do remember once I received the text message that nothing you can do now, it's over. That I received that message right before I dialed my sister about 6 times.
Okay.
And that's because I was concerned. And I remember that's when I had that break from calling my mom and dad. I received that, I saw that, and I just wanted to see if she was alive because I was concerned.
And you were then able to get on the phone with your sister after seeing that nothing you can do now, it's over text. Is that right?
It was a break, Matt. I was not able to get in touch with her. So between trying to call, I sent a message to the Nate on the phone.
I see. Okay. And what did you say in your next message?
We can help. God can help. It's not over.
Okay. And again, this is around the 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. hour?
It was in the late hour, late 10. It must have been around 10:50, so between 10:50 10:55 time frame. And
but shortly after sending that text message, you were able to confirm that your sister was alive.
When she called back.
Okay. And then you were also able to speak to your father again. Is that correct?
I believe so.
It appears, I'm sorry, it might be your mother. At 2:25, there's an incoming call from 616-7587.
It was my mother, yes, sir.
Okay, and can you tell me about that conversation?
I don't recall that conversation. I do know she was just really, I think she was really, nerves was kind of bad. She really concerned about everything that was taking place. But I don't recall the conversation.
Okay, that's fine. But and then you also, it looks like you may have spoken to the defendant again. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and can you tell me about that conversation at 3:35?
I think we had a couple exchanges, with the text before the call. But I just recall just trying to, I just thanked him for calming down and not, just doing something bad and just not moving into his emotions.
Okay. All right. And you continued to offer your support to him?
Absolutely, and told him I was there for him to support him throughout this process.
Okay. And then it looks like Thursday that day about 3 p.m. he texted you thanks. Is that right?
He did.
Okay. And that's when y'all were able to strike up your conversation again?
Yes, sir.
And can you kind of go through that for us?
Absolutely. He texted thanks. I responded, did you talk to her earlier? And he stated, yeah. And I said, I responded back, you two must talk and work your way through this season. It's not easy for her, not easy for you, her, the kids and all. He responded, nothing else I can say to her because she's not going to talk to me at all. Told her to have the kids, I'm cool. And I responded, Nate, I know it's not easy, but it's going to get better. He responded, no, it's easy for her to be with where she at and doing what she doing. She got another dick in her ass, and then her mom telling her it's okay to leave her fam, and daddy ready to kill me. And I responded, I've been praying for you all day. I know you're frustrated, but thanks for cooling down. And he responded, if you do, then oh well, I don't know what else to do, man. I'm not gonna call or say anything else. Wish them the best. And he responded again and says, I'm good. And I responded back and said, we'll work through this together. And he stated, okay.
And from there, I mean, you just continued to offer your support, and he said he wanted to make it right too. Is that right?
That's correct.
But in his last text message to you from these screenshots, what does he say?
In which one?
I guess the last one at the bottom of the page, right before you say, "Hey, bro, I'm at a work inspection."
Yes, he sent me a message says, I never thought Tonya would do me like this.
And I think you said before that you weren't intimately involved in in whatever was going on in their relationship. Is
That's
that
correct.
Right?
That's correct.
And what kind of position did you try to take from where you were out of state?
because I didn't know a lot of the intimate details, what was going on, besides the fact that they had separated, especially after being married for so long. I just tried to be a brother and try to be a mediator and just making sure that he didn't, just being a brother and making sure he didn't make any emotional decisions.
And after talking with him that day, he no harm came to your sister or your nephew or your nieces that day, or your parents. Is that right?
That's correct.
There was no report of him showing up at their house or anything like that.
Not to my knowledge, but I don't think so.
Okay. Now, in the ensuing months, were you aware of, again, the details of what was going on between them down in North Carolina?
Yes, I heard, bits and pieces about it, but not much, not a lot of details. My parents are very careful to just to kind of hold a lot of the issues on that end, just because I was always away, and they didn't want me worried or being concerned about what was going on at that end.
Well, can you tell us about how you were contacted or how you came to know about what happened on the night of April the 9th of 2014?
I was actually studying, and I received a phone call from my aunt. It was late, must have been, I can't remember, it was late. And she asked if I heard from my mom and dad. And I said no. I just thought it was real strange that she would call out the blue very late.
Right.
And asked if I heard from them. So she said she'd call me right back. And so I picked up the phone and started calling my mom. I think I called her maybe a few times. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, it's late, Bible study's over, everybody's home. So I started calling my dad several times. And then I called my sister, and no answer. And I just remember just calling, just rapid fire, just calling them, all of it, just rotating, calling my mom, my sister, my dad, my mom, my sister, my dad. And then finally I ended up calling my wife and said, something is not right. I don't know what's going on, but we need to be praying. And finally I got a call back from my aunt, and she stated that Nate killed Angie and Sylvester, and we're not sure if Tonya's gonna make it, but she was taken to the hospital. And I just said, I want to make sure I just want to be clear. Is mom and dad dead? And she said yes. And I said, okay, they're with the Lord. And so now we need to focus our faith on just praying for Tonya. And so I told her that everything's gonna be all right. We're gonna, we'll get through this. I'll be home tomorrow on the first flight out of Detroit, and I'll contact the family.
Yes, sir. And what time did you get to Raleigh on April the 10th?
I think I arrived at approximately 11:30.
And when did you move down here?
I never left. I actually stayed here, and I was committed that I was not gonna leave her until she was better.
And when did LaTonya and JT and Amber and Nautica move in with you and your family?
A few days later, we actually was able to secure local lodging, a rental property. About 6 days later, and so from that time, we was able to going back and forth with the custody. I think they stayed with my brother, and with them for about a week. We was able to get this lodging at about 6 days later, and they moved in a week later here in Raleigh.
Thank you, sir. Nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Taylor, hello. First, let me say how sorry I am for your loss. I'd like to talk about those text messages, and if you could put them back up on the screen. Thank you so much. You read a number of the messages that Mr. Lively put on that screen during your direct examination, but I'd like to take you through the remaining ones that you didn't read out loud, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's wait till they're up there on that screen. And may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes. Would you like the lights dimmed? Would you like the lights dimmed?
Yes, that'd be helpful. So I think you stopped at a response that you gave, which was okay, which I think is just to the left, on the left of that screen there, yeah. Would you mind reading the text that you, I believe the next text is one that you sent in response to the defendant saying K.
Yes,
Would you mind
ma'am.
reading that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Bro, I've been knowing you since you were 5 years old, even going back to when Jaremus and I would play basketball at your house, dunking on your goal. So this hurts me and everybody involved. But God has a future for you. He's going to give you the grace to endure and recover. He loves you, and I love you too. Your sister Carly has been praying for you also. You may like me a little, but I know you love your big sister Carly.
Then how did the defendant respond?
He responded, I love all you guys. I just want to make it right.
And you responded?
I know you do.
And then what did he say?
Just want us to get it right. That's all. And to be able to see, and talk to my kids.
And you responded?
That should be a problem. I know you love your kids. And he responded, not trying to be difficult, wanting, trying to make it right. And I responded, I understand. And he said, it is.
Thank you. So I believe you testified that you've known the defendant, Nate, since, you call him Nate? Is that
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
since he was about 5 years old? Or you were 5 years old?
Since he was about 5 years old.
Okay. And you also knew his family, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the families were close to each other?
Excuse me?
The families were close to each other, your family and his family in the same community?
Not in the same, we all lived in the same city of Wendell, but at the time, I think he had lived in a Jones Chapel community, and we stayed in Raleigh Hill community.
I see, so a little, sort of adjacent, but not the same community.
Negative. It was in the same city, but I just knew my best friend. I would spend a lot of time at my best friend's house, which was in his community,
I see.
Jones Chapel.
Okay. But you've known him for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
And you talked about you left home when you enlisted, is that right?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
But you had some time living in the home while your sister and Nate were dating, is that true?
Yes, there was because he was in high school a little bit.
So that relationship began before you left home, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
And so you had an opportunity to observe that relationship, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you left home, and it was after that Nate and LaTonya got married, is that true?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
But you remained close with both members of that couple, didn't you? Even after you had left home.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I would talk to him and communicate with him every now and then. Yep.
In fact, you considered Nate to be part of the family, didn't you?
He was my brother-in-law. Yes, ma'am.
Did you consider him to be a friend?
I mean, he was my brother-in-law.
So you talked just now about these text messages, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you also indicated that during the midst of this conversation, which took place by text, that there was also a phone call that took place between you and Nate. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now you, prior to your testimony here today, you have met with members of the district attorney's office to prepare for your testimony. Is that right?
To prepare, excuse me.
Well, you've met with the prosecutors who are sitting here today. You've met them before. Is that right?
I've met them before.
Was there an occasion where you came to their office recently to meet with them?
Yes, I came.
Okay. And I assume they asked you some questions that are similar to the questions that you've been asked here today. Is that right?
Somewhat, but not all the same.
Okay. But they asked you questions relating to this case.
Yes, ma'am.
And they asked you questions relating to these text messages. Is that right?
They just, asked me to review them. Yes, ma'am.
And did they ask you did you obtain these phone records for them?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you actually call your phone company and Sprint and ask them?
Yes, I was able to acquire them.
Okay.
I was able to acquire them.
And then you were able to provide a copy of them to the the assistant district attorneys working on the case. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then when you provided those, did you then have a conversation with you then had a conversation with the assistant district attorneys about these phone records? Is that right?
Yeah, I sent it to them.
Didn't you, and I have notes here of some of that conversation, didn't you at one point tell someone in the district attorney's office that you didn't remember the phone call that you had with the defendant?
Excuse me?
Isn't it true that you at one point told someone in the district attorney's office that you don't remember the phone call?
I vaguely remember all the details of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be inaccurate if I have notes that say that you didn't remember the phone call.
I think initially we talked about it, I may have said that it was, I vaguely remember that, some of the details of the call.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your memory about it is vague?
Excuse me?
You're saying your memory about the phone call is vague? Is that the word you just used?
I don't have a lot of the specific details about the call, and it was vague.
Okay. Now, you testified previously at a hearing in this case, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was on May 22nd, 2014, is that right?
I think so. I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
It was a couple years ago, or I guess about almost 3 years ago now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Not that long after the crime,
That's
right?
correct. That's
so
correct.
this happened April 9th of 2014.
That's correct.
And what I have is a transcript of a hearing that took place May 22nd, 2014. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So you testified during the course of this hearing. First you were asked questions similar to the ones that you were asked here today. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Including questions about text messages that you had with the defendant on January 2nd of 2014. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, ma'am.
And you, similar to what happened this morning, or this afternoon, I'm sorry, you read the text messages at this hearing. You read them aloud.
I believe so.
I assume you were probably looking at your phone when you read them.
At the time, I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
And you recounted the same text messages that you testified to in this courtroom this afternoon, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But I've read the entirety of this transcript, and you didn't testify about any phone call with the defendant, did you?
I don't recall.
I think, I think what I'd like to do is have you look at this transcript. I'm going to mark this, if I can find our stickers, just for identification purposes as Exhibit 1 from the defense. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Is that, yeah, does it go all the way to 2718? Okay, that's fine.
So, I'm handing you a transcript of your testimony from May 22nd, 2014. Do you mind taking a look at that?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'd just like you to look through that for a few minutes so you get a sense of what you testified to.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll go ahead and take a 15-minute recess, and he'll have the opportunity to review it during the recess, and when we return, you can resume your questions. So while we're on recess, please recall all the rules and instructions I've given you. Please leave your notepads in your chairs.